So once you enter the negotiation ecosystem, you cannot get out of them. Another fun story was also with a Chinese team that we had during the online rounds. I think we negotiated in total like 18 hours. Sometimes we face challenges and we're really afraid to step out. And for me, that's always the nicest driver to challenge yourself and just go for it and have the courage.
Hello everyone, my name is Jacob and this is UT Journeys. Wonderful series when we sit with inspiring students to talk about their lives, motivation, and most importantly, how you can enhance your study journey. In today's episode, we'll talk with Mandra Bensmann, Master Industrial Design Engineering student. Mandra has finished Great Negotiators Honors Master Program, got to the Negotiation Challenge finals and received awards for Outstanding Individual Negotiator. She teaches negotiation at Negotiation Project Twente and is organizing Dutch Negotiation Open, negotiation competition that will be hosted at UT soon. Enjoy. Hi Mandra, thank you for coming.
Hi Jacob, thanks for inviting.
Let's start with the first question. You've done the Master Honors in Negotiation. Yes. It is called Great Negotiator, yes?
Indeed.
What is that?
The Great Negotiators program, well, it reveals already itself a little bit how to become a great negotiator, and you really start from the basics. So it's 3 quartiles actually, and you start with an introduction, so you get to know a lot of concepts in the beginning, and the nice thing about it is you're learning a skill. So you cannot learn a skill only based on theory. You need to learn a skill also by practice. So almost every lecture, especially in the first quartile, are based on a mixture of theory. So you really understand like the human psychology behind it, and then also an application. So you have a lot of simulation cases. The cool thing about Great Negotiators, and I think that's something that I'm still doing until today, is also the reflection. It sounds very simple, but we have like a specific way on how to reflect. So you basically start with, okay, this is what I felt throughout the negotiation, for example. Then you also highlight, okay, what went wrong? How would the ideal situation look like? What were my constraints? What are different values that I need to actually achieve that ideal situation? And what is one thing I want to change for the next week? So you really understand yourself much more. You also understand, okay, where you really need to dig also deeper. Like in the beginning, you might be really superficial on terms of values. What do you need to achieve exactly the ideal situation? But at some point, you really get stuck as well, and you need to dig deeper within yourself. What are different beliefs or values that you have that are actually being a constraint to the ideal situation? And then also try to understand and give yourself also time. I mean, a skill, there's always a learning curve. And I was also quite stuck at some point. Like you learn a lot and then you also get better. And then at some point you start overthinking and then everything just gets worse. And you're like, okay, crazy. Now I cannot negotiate at all anymore. And then slowly you try to, all these learnings, put them together day by day. But you also have really, really great professors that help you on an individual as well as on a group level to become better negotiators, but also better listeners, better humans in that sense. It sounds really, crappy a little bit, but it's really a self journey going through Great Negotiators, with addition to actually learning also a lot how to become a better professional as well. So you basically get the best of both worlds.
It actually sounds really good, not crappy.
Yeah, right, hopefully.
But how the lectures were structured in this sense?
Yes. So basically you start again, we first have an overview, hey, what do we want to achieve today? And then we have a theoretical part. So it could be, for example, about culture and emotions. It can be really about negotiation strategies, negotiation phases and styles. You actually start the entire course with a self-assessment, but you don't know what it is. So you fill out lots of questions, but you don't get the outcome yet. And then throughout the weeks, once you also get to know the topics a bit better, like negotiation styles, then you're reviewing your answers and understand yourself better. What type of negotiator are you, for example? To just reflect, okay, what strategies also work with myself and where are my own pitfalls, for example. So it's always connected like to self-development and self-reflection. So again, we start with the outlook of the lecture, then we go into the theory, and then we already have the case. And then afterwards, throughout the week, you would have 1 week time to reflect. You write this reflection model, and then you also have to peer review 2 people. So 2 people from your course, you read their self-reflection and also reflect, or basically give them feedback. How can they reflect even better? And also just general feedback on their reflection, also some tips. So it's really nice that you also get to know everyone else's journey as well. And you connect also through these reflections, though sometimes. But yeah, helpful.
What are the cases?
What are the cases? Oh, it's really depends. I mean, we start with basics. So you don't want to overwhelm. So you really have maybe 1 or 2 variables, and it's a typical buyer-seller case. But it could be also a salary negotiation case, often sometimes with a twist. So some information are hidden and you need to reveal or try to, through a lot of calibrated questions, understand the other party's interests and not just their statement, but what do they actually want? Why are they saying that? What else do we have? We also have political negotiations. So you mainly have also, there are often multi-party negotiations. We also went to cases where we have a mediator in between as well. So you also learn, okay, how do you actually are part of a negotiation, but you are not allowed to take part of any
Stand.
Yeah, of any side, but you still want to help that negotiation go forward and understand each other and be a facilitator to effective problem solving. What else do we have? Cultural negotiation. It's sometimes a bit, I think that one of the difficulties is you get a case and it's never yourself, but you get a description of who you are sometimes very specific, like traits, who you are. And sometimes if it's a person that you just don't really agree with, or it's just not your values, it's sometimes really hard to play that role. But it, of course, then really triggers, for example, if we talk about culture, it really triggers this confrontation. And then you really learn, okay, this can actually happen. And at one point, you become that role, not always, but sometimes. And then you really understand internally what is happening with you if you are really just, overwhelmed with the situation and you just want to get an end. And once all these emotions fire up, probably every one of us was already angry or just, don't know what to do. Then it's really, quite intense to really understand, how do I now get back and use these strategies that I learned throughout the course? And it's a lot of self-exploration. So they won't say, sometimes there are really specific strategies, but others you have to find out for yourself, like coping mechanisms when you feel a lot of emotions, for example.
Whom would you recommend all of that to?
To whom?
Yes.
I think everyone, because everyone negotiates. So you negotiate literally on a daily basis, and everyone who wants to improve their communication and listening skills. Of course, like when I started GN, I applied for it, and I mainly applied for it because I was out of fear. Usually I start a lot of skills training based on, I can't do this, I want to learn it, because I'm a bit afraid to do it. So I always thought, okay, I'm a bad negotiator. I want to influence people and get them do the things that I want. So that's why I was like, okay, maybe this can help me, because I have no clue how to do that. But then throughout the journey, I actually learned it's not just about getting what you want, but it's about creating value for both parties and understanding really where do we have the common ground and how can I also be of help for you, so then that you can reciprocate and I also get the things that I want. So I think that's a skill for everyone, to not be focused only on yourself, but how can you really enable effective communication? And I think there's not really a specific field, but just anyone who's interested in growing yourself as an individual, as a professional, to become just better with people and thereby even getting more what you want. I think that's like a really nice deal, right?
It is. It is. And during the courses, there was also some kind of the negotiations that you can participate to, like TNC, the Negotiation Challenge.
Yes. So for GN, so Great Negotiators, we only send one team to TNC, and that's also the only competition that we usually take part. Now, hopefully also DNO, of course. But since the focus there is a lot also on theory, and of course we're now connected to honors, and NPT is like its own student association, only one team will be selected. So you also have internal rounds first, where you, of course, first have to be interested. Not everyone is interested in participating in a competition. And then internally with the professors, you would have a round where you take up different roles as well. And then you have to also argue a little bit, okay, why do I want, with whom do I want to negotiate? So your preferred team members, because team harmony is quite important. I think you know that as well, to also participate in a competition. And so mainly it's TNC within GN, but of course, if we're now later on talking about NPT, there are much more opportunities to compete.
Could we actually maybe do the step back, and could you tell us a little more what the TNC actually is and how those negotiation competitions works?
Yes. What exactly do you want to know about the competitions?
Everything, the structure, how it is being done.
Okay.
Who can participate?
Everyone can participate. So it's helpful to have some negotiation background, because they are really skilled negotiators out there. It's an international competition. It's, I believe, even one of the most known ones. So TNC stands for the Negotiation Challenge. And each year it is hosted at a different university. So this year it was in Enschede at the University of Twente. Last year we were in Rome, so there it was at the Lewis University. And next year it will be in Cape Town. So that's really lovely. And how does it start? So you basically have to already, I think even the applications in a few months are already open for next year. And you have 3 online rounds. And as I said, it's an international competition. And this year, for example, 66 teams from all over the world. And when I'm saying all over the world, it's really all over the world are participating. So there you will be really confronted by cultures, and most likely also get some cultural shocks, but that's also how you learn a lot. Now getting back to the structure, so you have 3 online rounds. They're called preliminaries, and you basically have almost 2 to 3 days to negotiate. So you get a case on a Thursday usually, and the entire negotiation online rounds are like, I think, a month in advance or 1.5 months in advance to the actual final rounds. Now you start on a Thursday, you get the case, then you have, as a team, time to get to an agreement with the other team until usually it's like Saturday or Sunday evening. So you don't really you have to from there on really coordinate everything yourself, because the people might be in a different country, so there might be different times as well. And then you basically have usually 2 days or so to really negotiate. So that's like, usually you come to an agreement between 1 and 2 days. And then afterwards, you are really, really excited after the 3 rounds, because they have like this little show where they reveal all the cases, how it went. And then you really learn, okay, who's going to the finals. That's a little bit about the structure of the first preliminary rounds. And then we have the 3 final rounds that are in person. And usually, I mean, now I have to dig a little bit deeper into different negotiation styles and cases, but mostly we have like a typical business case. So meaning you have some variables. TNC compared to WNR doesn't have that many variables. You might know that as well. WNR focuses quite a lot on a lot of variables, but TNC is more into the content, really understanding the nuances of information. So the first one's much more business related, where you can create a lot of value by log rolling. So that might be now a new word to a lot of people. But what that means is usually that you can exchange some variables where you have to lose a little bit, but the other party wins a lot. So you get hurt a little bit, but thereby you're creating a lot of value for the other party. But then there's another variable that does the same for you. So basically, the other party needs to do a concession and take back a little bit, but on the other hand, is creating a lot of value for me. So if we find exactly these two variables, then we can log roll and just go to the extremes and create a lot of value for each other because, our main priorities are basically being understood and also accepted. The second one, often, I don't want to generalize it too much, but it's sometimes a little bit more political, but not too much. So it's also about how you lay out your arguments a lot. And there it's really about also creative problem solving. So coming up with solutions that are outside of the box. And there you really have to collaborate a lot together. And the third one, I think they started it last year, that it's also about how can you also set up an agenda? So you only know like the topic and you can prepare for it for a month in advance. And you have to come up with your own agenda points. What do you want to negotiate about? And then you basically negotiate in the first round your agenda. And then in the second round, you actually negotiate the different terms on the agenda points based on your own interests. And I think this year, did you also compete in the preliminaries?
No, me personally, not.
We also had, I think, negotiation with AI this time. But AI is still in the progress. So sometimes the AI was a bit biased. Therefore, some of the results couldn't be really, weren't really used. But it's really nice that you can get to know a lot of different styles of negotiations.
Yeah, also from cultural setting.
Yeah, exactly.
I realized it actually during the WNR, which is the other competition, Warsaw negotiation round. That here we are actually, even though we are negotiating with each other, and this is that we're eventually with different cultures, it is still that we are having our own culture here. So most of the people are still negotiating in the same way. And then you're going there and you're seeing the people who have been in other countries for like their entire life. Yeah. And they're having completely different style.
Yeah, definitely.
Really
Do you have like an example? What did you actually see there at WNR?
Oh, that was like some kind of the feelings that I couldn't I don't know if I can describe. For example, for example Greek teams or so, I feel that they're much more in. They need to have that connection with you as well.
Yes.
So it isn't that we can like we need to know each other and we need to have a nice relationship to have a nice deal there.
And then, for example, during GN, you learn a lot about the Hofstede dimensions, so the different cultures. And it has its up and down sides. Like you understand a little bit more, okay, for example, if there's more or less power distance, how does that also affect how the other person reacts to you? And for example, also what you've just described as well, to first create a relationship in advance is in some cultures much more important because that's how trust is more built rather than, here in the Netherlands, also in Germany, it's much more rational and we like to get to the arguments and facts quite straight. However, this can also bias yourself if you think too much of these cultural aspects. So actually I did during GN and also TNC a task that I wanted to prepare culturally for each team. And I think then we negotiated with the Italians and we knew, for example, hey, time management is maybe not like their biggest asset in that sense. So what we thought, because our team was a little bit more careful usually, so we were not that assertive, but very collaborative. So we thought, okay, if time management pressures them, let's maybe not mention the times during an agenda. So often you also have time-bound agenda because you only have 60 to 90 minutes to negotiate. So you have the different negotiation phases where you introduce yourself, then you have information exchange, then you get to the first offers, you might take a break, then you actually negotiate about each term, and then you might even have the first agreement and maybe do even a post-settlement. So you already agree to something, but then look if you can actually improve the deal. So there are quite some steps, and if you only have 60 to 90 minutes and you are stuck in one phase, it's quite difficult. So we thought, without pressuring them, maybe they are a bit more like calm at the table. So we erased the times, but then we were completely stuck in the process, and that was basically our killer afterwards. So in terms of cultures, yes, it's good to learn about them, but it's also good to test and also understand, okay, sometimes you might be biased, or sometimes you also might not use the right strategies. So it's much more about also communicating, and you probably have that as well, and just experiencing it. So another fun story was also with a Chinese team that we had during the online rounds. I think we negotiated in total like 18 hours. And I'm really saying like 18 hours fully negotiating. So on 2 days, I think each day 9 to 10 hours of negotiation. And we completely destroyed the relationship because we didn't even let them save their face. And we didn't know that at that time. Oh, we did a little bit maybe, but we were also, we didn't know how to handle that situation. So they revealed information that they didn't want to reveal. And then basically we had power over them. So instead of negotiating based on interests, where you usually face less pressure also from the other or resistance from the other party, we basically used that power against them and told them, hey, you revealed some information and we cannot unsee that information anymore. But that, of course, let them lose their face, and they didn't want to go any step further with us. So we tried argumenting a lot, and at some point we were really stuck. So at some point we just changed our strategy and we went full on silent for like 60 minutes. And that was the first time that they actually did something, because they could now be a little bit more safer in the environment. Okay, that's just an assumption, but I don't know. It just happened, really worked to understand, okay, maybe we need to change, also adapt our own strategy to their needs, because we also were quite rude in that sense that we let them lose their face. So it was fun, but also frustrating as well. I don't know, how was that for you? Were you also sometimes frustrated?
Yeah, if it comes to us, when we participated in WNR, it was, we actually got really good counterparts, I need to tell. And each time it was really collaborative, and each round we're really satisfied with it.
Nice.
So, but during this time, I actually realized this thing that when I was reading Negotiation Genius, he mentioned once that, it is much better to have counterparts which are also good negotiators.
Yes.
And I was thinking yes, but if someone maybe bad negotiator, maybe you can get the better deal because they won't be that stubborn, or they won't anchor that much, so put the price that high. But then suddenly you start seeing that actually bad negotiators are less collaborative, and they don't look for this win-win situations. And each time that we are negotiating with amazing people, I was like, wow, okay, so this is how we can literally exchange and create values, and also create the relationship.
Yeah.
That was really beautiful.
Indeed, it's really not to get, but together. So that's a quote from one of the professors at TNC last year. And I think that's really stuck with me until today, because you focus a lot when you start with negotiations to get things. You only want the things that you want. But if you start thinking in together, then you actually can, both of you might be satisfied. Of course, you still want to capture the bigger pie. So
yes. But it is always better to capture the bigger part of the bigger pie than the bigger part of the smaller pie.
Exactly.
You're also engaged in NPT, Negotiation Project Twente.
Yes.
Can you tell us what NPT is?
Yes. So Negotiation Project Twente now, compared to Great Negotiators, it's much more practically focused. So whereas in GN we really dive deep into the science of negotiation, we still do that on NPT, but more on a higher level and focus much more on training. So it is a student-led association. We have the board who does a lot of things in terms of acquisition, marketing, and also creating collaboration partners with external parties. So, for example, even with Greece, we have a collaboration as well. So we do try to also connect the dots around the globe with other negotiation enthusiasts. And then we have the teaching department. So this year it is with Frank, Luc, Javier, and myself. And every week we meet all the cohort, and in advance we send you usually a case. You have to prepare for that case, and we basically teach you, also the art and science of negotiation, but also with, trying to also train you to compete in competitions. So that the focus is really skills training, but also coaching to competitions as well, and a lot of practice. So once you maybe start comparing GN and also NPT students, sometimes NPT students are a little bit better negotiators in competitions, just because we train them also a bit more in that style. But nonetheless, from a knowledge perspective, probably GN students know a bit more about the human psychologies and reasoning behind it. So sometimes the knowledge there is a little bit more sustainable and maybe more transferable to different domains rather than NPT. I'm not trying to make it better or anything, because we do teach the same or almost the same things. But since we don't dive that much deep, but more on a higher level, you really need to focus then more on skills training and practicing to understand what you're doing. And both are just equally valuable.
If it comes to NPT, who can apply?
Everyone. That's the easy answer. No, everyone can actually apply, but you do need a proper motivation. So we do look into how motivated is that person to really grow and develop. So if you just be like, just want to try it out, we need people that actually are willing to work on themselves. And then we also look during the trial sessions, how do they also cope with feedback? Because if you're resistant to any feedback, then it will be difficult for you also to grow as a negotiator. So motivation and also openness to feedback and to grow as a person, and especially if you have any personal motivations as well. So it could be anything. It could be, because I'm really afraid of even public speaking, even if it's not a lot of public speaking involved, but any of these fears, or also just motivations and drivers or dreams where we know, okay, this person is really there because he wants to be there and he wants to grow, because we're investing a lot of time of ourselves also into students. So that's, as a teacher, you have to prepare every week the lecture. We have our weekly meetings. So basically, and then of course also the courses themselves. So in a week, about 6 to 7 hours of investment. We do want to have the best students in terms of the most ambitious and dedicated students, where we know if we invest in them, that they will grow. And it doesn't mean that you need to be a good negotiator. So of course, you might have maybe a special dot, like when we already see a lot of potential in you. But to be honest, the people that have grown the most throughout now the last 7 months were mostly the ones where we were completely unexpecting it. And that's, I think, like the most valuable and nicest thing also as a teacher, when you see some people where, everyone has opinions. So we are sometimes like this person is never going to collaborate. Like, how are we going to teach that person? But the person is still very dedicated to learn. And you're just like, how? And then afterwards, there's sometimes just small triggers, and that person just becomes one of the best negotiators. And you're like, wow, like we're really proud of that person and of the entire group. So that's also an upside of being a teacher.
Yeah, and you've done wonderful job this year with the winners of TNC.
Indeed, but also WNR. We're really proud of almost, everyone, not almost, we're proud of everyone in the group, but also for every team that has competed. Like the first place in TNC, the best individual negotiator at TNC, then being in the top 4 of WNR. Those are all international competitions. So being there as a Negotiation Project Twente and knowing that the students have learned so much and are also that great of a negotiator to create really valuable deals and yeah, also maybe we haven't mentioned that about the competitions as well, to create a really large and nice network. So what is also in it for you if you compete in such a competition? You will grow as a negotiator. You will learn a lot of cultures, as you mentioned as well. So you know also how to adapt to different cultures. And then probably like the number one point is really the network. And until today, even though it's now almost a year ago or a bit longer, I'm still in contact with people from TNC, and it was lovely to see some of them now also becoming coaches and seeing them again during TNC this year. And you just become part of that bubble or network. So once you enter the negotiation ecosystem, you cannot get out of them. And it's actually not the biggest bubble. So that's why we also have DNN to make that even bigger, especially in the Netherlands. But all these people are all over the world, and you already know them through competitions like WNR and TNC, because they are so skilled negotiators that are from everywhere, and they also see the value in giving feedback like judges to ambitious students, and you learn a lot from them, and you learn a lot of new people and just a really nice family that you can connect to. And it's quite nice to just say, okay, next year, maybe I'll go to Saudi Arabia because I know some people there. And you're even quite close to them, because negotiation is also quite a bonding mechanism. You know, you have like an agreement afterwards, and then maybe you have a drinks afterwards. Like, for example, Frank and Javier as well. I would have never thought that these two will become one of my closest friends during my entire university time, just through negotiating and training with them together.
I think this is because of the trust that you're putting in your team.
Yes.
I have the same with the WNR. When with the guys, in some points, I was completely through like losing entire control and giving like taking part of the small part of like the negotiation and giving them entire power to like even, for example, agree to the deal. And I knew that they will do it amazingly. And that was something that you cannot repeat.
No, right? It's also so difficult to explain, like this symbiosis you get throughout the team. You're almost one thinking brain, and you can completely rely. I mean, it takes a lot of efforts to put like that into your team harmony, but at some point you know exactly even what the other party is doing, and if not, like you rely completely on them because you trust them so much, as you said. So it's just a wonderful experience also on a team level, next to also creating that crazy network and wanting to change basically the world a little bit. I think every one of us afterwards just wants everyone to become better negotiators, because it just increases value in all different areas of your life.
Going one step back to NPT, when people can apply and how?
You're asking me questions. Okay, I think the applications are open in September or August. It really depends when we want to start the competition, the association, or like the course. So usually marketing will be also more intense throughout the end of the academic year or start of the new academic year. That was the first question. What was the next question?
And how?
How? So you will get a sign-up form. We also have a website on the UT page, and then you can basically sign up. And as well, as I mentioned, you have to hand in your motivation letter. So please have a good motivation. And I think there are lots of different good motivations. So it's really just to put a little bit of time investment to reflect a little bit. What do I want to get out of that? Then we will have 1 or 2 trial sessions, depending also on the how many are actually applying to NPT. So this year we had 2 different rounds with different people, of course, and then we select 20 to 25 people. That's mainly because once you have a bigger cohort, it's just more difficult for us to invest more energy into each individual, and we want to also be able to invest a lot of time into individual feedback. So it's not about, we would love to have even more, but then at some point quality becomes less, and we do want to focus a lot on quality. So 25 people, and usually it starts around end of September, beginning of October, for 7 months. So actually in 2 weeks, we have our graduation at NPT. And what is also quite important, you need to be committed. I mean, now it sounds a bit more like a constraint, but it's also, since we teach a lot every week, we do have that constraint that you can negotiate a little bit about it, but since it's quite a prestigious association, you cannot miss more than 3 to 4 times throughout the entire sessions without having a good reason, like an exam on the same day. Of course, that's quite a good reason, but else you will just miss out so much, and then you will be very far behind because, as you have experienced as well, there are just a lot of topics and a lot of strategies, and if you have to also practice all of that and you miss half of it, it's really hard to follow along.
Yes, and everything will be in the description.
Yeah.
Could you tell what the DNN, Dutch Negotiation Network, is?
Yes. So the Dutch Negotiation Network is a student organization which mission is to create an ecosystem throughout the entire Netherlands in terms of negotiation and basically connecting academia, professionals, and students. So what do I mean with academia? All different negotiation academics, professors, PhD students who are really engaging a lot with negotiation science. What do I mean with professionals? Basically all professional negotiators from political backgrounds, from business backgrounds, from any backgrounds in the Netherlands, as well as students, so anyone here from the UT, but also throughout the entire Netherlands, to really have that network and learn from each other. So far, why did we actually start? NPT was mostly the only association back in the days that competed in competitions. And most of the other universities, there was already quite an ecosystem. So we saw this as our mission to make a change and have a nicer and broader ecosystem within the Netherlands. So how are we going to achieve that? And we have 2 operational missions. Mission number 1 is to create more associations across the Netherlands. So this year we started, for example, in Rotterdam as well. And we basically search for teachers where we already know them, and they will then also teach other students at different universities the same science and art of negotiations as NPT, but first in a smaller, compact manner. So to just keep the fire starting. So that's number 1. The second operational one is DNO, because once we connect all the partners, so what does DNN do also? We connect with different professionals, raise awareness. Sometimes we do workshops with them. For example, the Student Council of TU Delft, where we taught them now already 2 different councils, more negotiations, and they were really happy. Or we also have collaborations with ELSA, so the European Law Student Associations in the Netherlands, which are also engaged in negotiations. So how can we now create a platform where all these different stakeholders involved in negotiations can also collaborate and network and get to know each other? Because else we will all work in silos again, and the best way to learn is really by exchanging. So that's what DNO, the Dutch Negotiation Open, is for. What is DNO? It's a competition for students and young professionals across the Netherlands, but also from other countries who are really interested to engage in this ecosystem as well. It will take place this year in June 2024. So the first online round is on the 1st of June, and the application deadline is the 29th of May. And then we will have an in-person session on the 14th of June. And in total, you will negotiate 3 cases. And who is it for? Anyone who's interested. So even if you don't have a proper negotiation background, we will try to provide you with some mini workshops to get to know some basics. And I mean, most of the time, since it's a skill, you learn a lot by doing it. You don't have to win to become a better negotiator. And who is all there? So we will have judges from academic background, but also from professional backgrounds. We will have a program set up with cases written by ourselves NPT students, as well as professionals as well. And next to that, we have our participants from all over the Netherlands, and also sometimes some from Germany as well. So that will be really fun to also get to know all the different students across the Netherlands, because sometimes at the UT we are quite in our own bubble. So it will be nice to also become the leading platform to connect throughout the Netherlands. And then next to that, we have basically all of them now on a platform, and we will have a networking event afterwards as well, because that's one of the most important things as well. So first the tasks, and then afterwards we also network and have some drinks together. It will take place at Design Lab. So maybe also some technicalities about D&O. You can sign up as a team of 2 or 3. And the team participation fee is for 2 people, €40, and for 3 people, €45. And included in that are all the drinks, all the food, and most importantly, experts, so judges from different backgrounds who can give you a lot of nice feedback. You will get to know a lot of new people. You can even train your skill right away, connect with the right people to maybe learn afterwards as well. So NPT will be present. Maybe that can spark already the fire to participate in NPT or in a different association in NPR, for example, as well. And I don't want to say too much. I think that's mostly it. Do you have any questions?
Yes, going to the end.
Yes.
What is the one piece of advice that you would give to the new student?
To new students, to use any fear into new power. So what do I mean by that? Sometimes we face challenges and we're really afraid to step out. And for me, that's always the nicest driver to challenge yourself and just go for it and have the courage. So instead of using that fear against yourself, just use it as a motor that can drive you forward. And nothing is impossible. So I'm full on a dreamer. And if everyone can become more of a dreamer, then everyone can achieve anything. And especially within negotiations, it's really good to keep an eye open for different opinions, different perspectives, and overmount this fear of not trying to do everything perfectly, but just do it. Now I can be a Nike sponsor. Just do it.
Mandra, thank you a lot for coming.
Thanks as well for inviting me. It was really lovely. Talk a little bit about negotiations.
It was.